Hey guys, it's your friendly neighborhood angry guy here. And, I've got something interesting to discuss with you. All right? In science news, you're like, what? Is he really doing science now? Yeah, I can. I'm doing the kind of science that I want to do. So, science news. Scientists discover people can die for literally no reason. We're going to talk more about it after. Well, thank you for subscribing, Jonathan. All right, enough of that. Enough of that. I'm telling you guys. I'm telling you. This is some unbelievable things, man. This is some scary stuff, man. So here's how this is go. Here's how this goes. I'm looking at the mic like, is it on? Is this microphone on? La 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 la. And yeah. So this 39-year-old woman passes away, and the coroner basically comes to the conclusion that she passed away from a THC overdose. Right? This happened pretty recently, and the irony here is that he couldn't find any other reason why she would have passed away other than the THC that was in her system. Now, keep in mind, the level of THC in her system wasn't exactly insane. She had like 8.5 like milligrams of it in her system, a small amount. And keep in mind, like, the legal limit to drive while you're under the influence of THC is like 5. Okay, it's like 5 milligrams. So yeah, she wasn't that bad, but he couldn't figure out any other reason why a young woman could have passed away. So he ruled that. Now here's something very intriguing about this I want to discuss further. There are numerous cases around the world. Hmm. Oh gosh. Yeah, so there are numerous cases around the world where people have just literally passed away. So you've probably heard about this before, where some people die and they die for literally no reason, no cause whatsoever. They just die. Okay? When, they've this is it's a phenomena that has been seen countless times, and no one can explain why these people simply die. For example, they didn't have a heart attack, they didn't have trouble breathing, okay? They did not, I mean, like, literally, they did not have a stroke, a brain aneurysm. There are no signs of blood pressure having been an issue, because if there were issues with blood pressure, then it likely would have shown within the heart itself. Again, again, when you consider these factors, this has happened. However, not only are scientists discovering that people can literally die for no reason, but there's a potential correlation now with marijuana and the use of cannabis, specifically THC and CBD, and how this could potentially affect the body and mind to the point where a person might simply pass away just because they're ready to let go. We've heard about this many times, where older people will simply just let go, and we truly do not think about that concept enough. I mean, here's an interesting statistic. Whenever there's a presidential election, the 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 number of people who die pass the number of people the number of people that die actually goes down. So fewer people die during the election cycle, all right, compared to all other years. However, after the election, then the death toll picks up. All right, like, never missed a beat, and then a bunch of people die. Think about this carefully. So a bunch of people don't die prior to an election, and then after an election, all the people that would have died then suddenly die. Why does that happen? This is something I learned in school. All right. It happens because this was actually by like an old professor who explained it. Like, because people want to see what happens. People are wait. They want to wait and see what happens. People literally hold on. It is possible. This actually happens, and they want to see who becomes president. They want to see who wins, and then they die. It's a pretty crazy phenomenon. So it really illustrates just so much that there's quite a good amount of evidence that people can die, just for no reason. And it's possible that the use of THC and cannabis could potentially allow people to pass on to the next life just by choice. Imagine, guys, very soon the potential, because this is what we're potentially looking at, the potential to pass on without, just by choice, very pretty much. Like your mind and body are brought to a point of relaxation where you naturally let go, and your body naturally and gradually slows down until it comes to a full stop. And your body has you've technically passed away. And your body is now, going to decompose because you're no longer alive. But the interesting aspect of that is that there was no specific reason that led to this, to your death, other than you choosing, your body, your mind choosing to simply pass, to simply go. So it's a very intriguing concept, and where you were seeing this phenomena possibly happening right now with people who use THC. So THC and or CBD, the main molecules found in marijuana, cannabis, could potentially result in people actually just sooner, because with all the legalization, everything, and testing, it's possible that at higher levels CBD or specifically THC could help people to not only, I don't want to say die peacefully. No, because there's medications that can do that. No, I mean to actually pass on without any assistance, like literally pass on. Think about the concept of this. There's a process of dying, and for example, there's you just don't die typically. All right, there's a reason, like your heart's not getting enough oxygen, or your lungs, your body, you're having trouble breathing or whatever. There's usually something, and then your body starts to shut down and shut itself down gradually, right, and starts to go through the process of dying. But the thing is, imagine if you can achieve that process without the need to have a reason to trigger the body to go into that. In other words, the body chooses to naturally, gradually, slowly go to a state where until it enters death, or what we consider death to be. But there's no real other reason for the person to die other than the person chose to, and the body chose to allow it. It's a very interesting thing, isn't it? So, I mean, this doesn't allow us to become immortals. It doesn't extend our lives in any way, but it is quite significant. The idea of being able to just die without any pain, without any suffering, and literally, we're not talking about using medication that will, you're essentially going to pass away from suffocation, or, because you stop, no, you just go. You just go. You return to God. It's truly amazing, isn't it? Niall is in the chat. How's it going, Niall? Shout out to Eric. He points out about sudden infant death syndrome, which is something also very common. My thing with sudden infant death syndrome, I have to say, is that I suspect a lot of the children, for example, most children who pass away from sudden infant death syndrome are baby boys. And statistically, we know that parents are more likely to respond to baby girls than baby boys. I also think that more, and I think that they also find that more baby boys are left on their stomachs than on their backs. Then baby, it's, yeah, again, there's a lot of mistakes that are made on the part of the parents. There's a lot of negligence, and as a result of that, like I said, baby girls, they science has found, like statistics, parents are faster to rush to the aid of a baby girl than a baby boy. And you have to think about it, that it could be those tiny but small critical moments that can really determine whether or not someone lives or dies. And for example, let's say they're choking. All right, again, it could be various factors where just picking them up at the right moment and tapping them on the back can help them to breathe. So I think that there's an element of negligence with SIDS, and I think it's less of this example where, like, it's happening because they're just passing on. No, it's negligence. You can say when there's such a giant difference between the number of baby boys that pass away from SID and the number of baby girls, it's frightening. In fact, I'll give you an example. I think this is in the UK. When it comes to sudden infant death syndrome, more baby boys are actually born in the UK, okay? And they have been for quite some time, than baby girls, decades. More baby boys are born in the US than baby girls, quite a bit. So for example, it's something like for every 100 baby for every 100 baby girls born, there'll be 110 baby boys. Okay? Basically, so I want you to think about that very, very carefully, and then realize that there's no reason why baby girls should be surviving at rates that are to the point where, okay, so I'll put it this way. Even though more baby boys are born than baby girls, by the time they reach adulthood, you have a surplus of women than men. How is this possible? Because so many men die during that period of time. It's pretty insane. So many young men, so many boys, and especially babies from sudden infant death syndrome will pass away, okay? Will pass away after being born, that by the time they reach adulthood, there are significantly more women than men in society. It's a pretty startling statistic, and of course, nothing has ever been done to try to figure out why, other than saying, well, acts of God, right, man? How about this one? It's negligence. It's negligence. Eric said CBD helped to destroy his cancer. I'm so happy to hear that, dude. I really hope you're doing much better. Let me have a look here. Nature's in the chat. He says, you breathe in, you breathe out, you don't breathe in. Oh gosh, Nature. Underdogs in the chat. He says, to be honest, it's a scary thing. Had a case where this kid, when I was in middle school, passed away right there for no reason. Had no heart problems, no allergies. Yep. Exactly. Perfect example, Josh. I know it's absolutely frightening. I can only imagine it's absolutely frightening. You just said that he just literally fell. And yeah, it literally happens. And I'll give you another something really interesting about, there are many cases where people who have passed away, they suddenly come back to life. Okay, their heart had stopped, they were gone, and then they come back to life. There are various cases where people wake up in the morgue. All right, numerous cases where people who passed away wake up alive in the morgue, and no one knows why this happens. Why some people die and then come back to life. I mean, there's no brain function. Okay, their heart has stopped. All right, and then they suddenly come back to life. There was even a case where a woman came back to life in the operating room after she had died. I saw the whole thing on television, and it was just ridiculous, but these things happen. Let me look some. Let me read some more of what's going on in the chat. Yeah. Josh says, he says, to die and undie is rare. There's one historic guy who's famous now. Oh gosh, Jesus. Oh gosh. But if you're funny. But the thing is, like I said, it's a very weird phenomenon when you consider that. But it's possible that I'm thinking high levels of psychedelic substances like THC, or maybe THC for specifically, can potentially help people to pass on to the next life without any other reason other than a desire to pass on, to transcend. And you know, it's interesting. We're beings consumed of energy. And if you ever think about it, you know, they talk about the soul, but what is the actual soul? You know, in truth, we very well, at our core, may simply be these bodies, these things we call bodies, may just be shells for what are really celestial beings. All right, are pieces, at least, are components of the grand celestial of God. But think about it. We may be celestial beings just floating around in these bodies, you know? Celestial beings. Beings of just plain out energy at our core, right? So it's not insane to believe that some people, you know, they're able to just escape. They can leave. They can finally leave these shells, right? They are able to leave the shell. And it's an interesting concept, a very, very interesting concept. Oh gosh, let me see here. Well, so yeah, guys, I mean, that's, it sounds like it's like there's a lot of you guys that popped in during the stream, and I'm clearly there's interest in the topic. So yeah, we'll just go from there. Anyway, let me know what you think about this discovery and your own experiences with the subject. If you want to support the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe, and you can also become a patron, because Patreon is awesome. Cheers.